and we are recording. What's going on, everybody? Hopefully you all are doing great. It is a beautiful day today in Nanjing, China. It is a Sunday afternoon. It's actually quite tranquil today. Lots of families are out at the mall, hanging out with their kids, shopping, grabbing some food. It is extremely packed inside the mall today, but I decided to kind of step out of the house and try to pursue this like whole YouTube thing and just kind of share my thoughts and where I'm at, where I've been, my plans, whatever. Just kind of like the journey overall. And I don't really write anything or script it. I mean, I do have some thoughts and a few things that I do write down on my phone, just kind of like some talking points. But today I want to talk about a very simple word: gratitude. Okay, and before I delve into all of that, I kind of want to give you guys a little background story about myself. It's quite long, and I'm gonna give you the condensed version of it. So, like I said, before I delve into the whole gratitude thing, I just want to take you back. For the first 10 years of my life, I was living in the projects of Russia in this city called Arkhangelsk, or Archangel, whatever you want to call it, okay? I'm not really sure what it roughly translates to, but Arkhangelsk. So Arkhangelsk was a place, or now is the place, it's kind of like a post-Soviet decommissioned submarine base type of area, and then have a whole town built around it. And I'm sure the people that were there back in the early days, this is what they did. They worked on the submarines and, did some fishing or whatever they were into. But when I was living there, I remember this because my biological father at that time, he would used to, I'm stumbling over my words. He used to would take me fishing, and we'll go into that sea or whatever it's called. I don't even know the name, actually, the Arctic Sea or whatever. You know what I mean? And we used to hop, they build like planks, obviously made out of wood that would stretch across the water, and you can walk across them and jump on top of the decommissioned warships and submarines, and people used to go there and they would fish off of them. It's actually quite surreal if you really think about it, because I remember a specific day. I can't recall exactly how old I was, but I went fishing with my biological father, and he pulled something out. It's like a little can. I mean, I know what it is now in hindsight. It was some caviar, okay? Probably some of the most expensive luxury thing in the world right now. And at that time, over there, it was plentiful. And I remember eating that. And and it's so surreal now to look at it at 38 years old and figure out, hey, this is one of the most expensive foods in the world. But anyway, yeah, so for the first 10 years, I was living in Russia in the projects. And speaking of my biological father, he was really never there. Was a complete alcoholic, and he used to take it out on me. I won't get into the specifics, but that's pretty much how it went. I mean, he did have his good days, i.e. this whole, fishing thing. Got to spend some quality time with them, but he was a degenerate alcoholic, and I'm not saying this to judge him. That's exactly what he was. He used to beat me, take it out on me, and whatever. So 10 years in Russia, and 2 of those years, I believe, or maybe a year and a half, I lived in an orphanage. And to be quite frank, it's actually it wasn't that bad. The experience wasn't bad. We got to go to school. We had basic things. We had a place that we could take a shower. We had dormitories. There was 2 people per room. So it wasn't too bad. It was spacious. We always had like movie nights. I remember times, they would gather all us together. I remember when Mortal Kombat came out, the first one, and we were so hyped, that the people at the that were running the orphanage, they were allowing us to watch that. And yeah, it's like, what I mean? Like in the bad, there's also gonna be some good things, and that you can experience. So yeah, when I was 10 years old, I got approached by the staff at the orphanage, and it was like, hey, look, there is an American couple that wants to adopt you, your brother, and your sister. And I mean, I didn't know what to really make of it. They showed us all these pictures and of America, or where they were from. They were showing us the children of this adoptive family. And long story short, you know, we were adopted. It was actually a pretty tedious process. It took like over a month. So we went from Arkhangelsk to St. Petersburg, I think, and then to Moscow, and we stayed with a host family there right in the middle of the city, and it was beautiful. Moscow is a beautiful city. I remember yesterday it was snowing. It was around Christmas time, and you know, they came to Russia and showered us with all these gifts and clothes and things that we have never seen before. And you know, before I get into the whole thing that happened with my adopted family, like it was a blessing. You know, that's the best way I can explain it. It was a blessing. So we ended up coming to the United States in 1997. I couldn't speak the language. I couldn't eat any of the food. I couldn't do it. I ended up throwing everything up, you know, except for maybe like some pancakes. But when it came to things like corn and, you know, vegetables and all that stuff, like, I don't know, my body was just rejecting it. So anyway, we had to get, acclimatized to the, you know, American ways and the system and how things work. And it was definitely a process, you know. And at school, I'm not sure about my brother and my sister. I was kind of the outcast, but I was super athletic, like probably one of the fastest there. And so I would always get picked to play like sports and football and all that stuff. Anyway, so we lived with this adoptive family for about 4 years, I believe. I remember the last time, I guess the fondest memory, though it wasn't a particularly great time in, you know, U.S. history. It was around 2001. You know, the whole thing that happened with the Twin Towers. I was in middle school, and that was probably the last year I was with my adopted family. They just pretty much kind of like gave up on us, specifically my brother and myself, and they put us in a group home over there. And I believe I was like 13, 14, something like that when I came over there. And when we got to the group home, by the way, the name of the group home was Croswell Children's Home. It was on 11 Croswell Drive in Sumter, South Carolina. And it felt like the weight of the world had been lifted off my shoulders. This is the best way I can describe it. The people there, it was supposed to be like a Christian-based children's home. And the people there were super nice. So, like, we had a great staff. I still remember the names. Miss Kathy, we had Phil Ross, we had Mandy and Rusty. You know, the main people, those two main people, Mandy and Rusty, played a pivotal role in my life and development. They really and genuinely cared about us. We went camping, fishing. I mean, we did all kinds of redneck activities. I mean, come on, we're in Sumter, South Carolina, you know, the dirty South, baby, you know. And yeah, they genuinely, you know, showed us affection, compassion, and loved us. And this is where gratitude comes in. I'm so thankful. Despite of all this bad stuff that's happening, you know, I'm so grateful for even those moments, the bad times, more so than the good times, because the bad times, they can teach you. They can teach you some lessons in life, and I'm so grateful. You know, fast forward, 17 years old, I joined the military, and that opened up the world to me even more. And I was like, man, you know what? I love this. I love seeing new things. I love seeing new culture. I love experiencing new things, trying new food. My mind is never closed when it comes to things like this. So after the Army, I went back home for about, maybe a year. No, actually, it wasn't even a year. after I got out of the military, I went back to the States. It was probably 1 month. Yes, 1 month. This was the first time after I got out of the military. I went back home for a month, bought a round trip ticket back to South Korea, and I didn't know at all what I was doing. Well, I should say I didn't know what I was doing at all. I had like, I don't know, maybe $1,000 saved up, and I had it all figured out. Like I was 20 something years old, 24 years old or something like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stay over here. I'm gonna get a job. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna, you know, make it work with my girlfriend. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was clueless. I didn't know I had to have a work visa to work there. I thought I could find a job at like a club or some crazy stuff like that, like really young and naive. And long story short, in South Korea, I stayed there for 7 years. And I've experienced all kinds of things over there. I mean, I can share my story on another video about the whole jail experience in South Korea. That was surreal. Oh man. So anyway, I left South Korea after 7 years, went back home for about 6 months, and I bounced around from, what was it, San Antonio, from San Antonio to Las Vegas, Nevada, from Las Vegas, Nevada to Salt Lake City, Utah, and it was truly an experience. You know, I don't want to bash any of my friends because they helped me out, but it wasn't the environment that I wanted to be in. You know, in San Antonio, I had a friend who let me come and stay with him over there. He got into drugs, and I didn't want to be around that. Went to Las Vegas, and the roommate that I had at the time, he was also into the same type of shit. You know what I mean? The dude would literally usually lock me out of the house every time that we got back home from work, and there was no reason for it, and I didn't understand it. So I talked to another army buddy of mine, and I was like, hey man, you mind if I come over here and stay with you for a bit? And he was like, yeah, sure. And long story short, over there, it didn't work out as well. But like I said, despite all these things that these men were going through, they still look out and gave me a spot to chill. And that's what I'm saying. I'm so appreciative of that. It wasn't the best of situations, you know what I mean? But I'm so thankful and grateful. And a lot of people, they miss out on these things. They miss out on being thankful and the gratitude, even in the bad times in their lives. And me, I'm grateful. Anyway, so I was living in Salt Lake City. I was working at a hospice. People there were dying. It was like the most like depressing thing ever. I was like, man, like what can I do? So my friend's mom, she started doing like some research online, and we found out at the time, you know, China was opening up even more. It was around 2014. And she told me that, you know, there's a lot of opportunities to teach English. And in 2014, you know, in China, like anybody could come over there and teach. You don't have to have any certificates, qualifications, none of that. If you spoke English, even like some basic English, because I have worked with some people who are from Pakistan and India and Nigeria, and they could speak barely any English, and they were working and teaching in China. And so yeah, I was like, you know what? Let me try that out. I was always been like a daring person, and always wanted to go out and experience something new. And like, you know, a little bit of time went by. We got in contact with an agent. They found me a job, and I flew out. She helped me out with the plane ticket. And like I said, gratitude. I'm thankful for that. Like, how can I explain this? This is so surreal. So pretty much half of my life, I've been living overseas. 7 years in Korea, 7 years in China, 3 years in Vietnam, and I'm back here in China, about to go on 1 year now after being back. And no matter where I went in the world, there was always people there that were willing to help and give a hand. This is what I'm saying. Like, I'm so grateful especially for the bad times that I went through, because there was so much things to be learned from those things, how to maneuver. You know, it's like kind of developing a hustler's mentality as well, you know, how to figure things out. And, you know, it taught me a lot. It's very interesting. So anyway, yeah, got that ticket and I flew into that city in China called Shenzhen. So for those of you who don't know, Shenzhen is a southern part of China in Guangdong that is literally a rock throw away from Hong Kong. And I didn't know what to expect. Actually, the day before I flew out, the agent got in contact with me and she was like, oh, you know, the school, they decided to not take you in for the position. And I was like, well, what the hell am I going to do? And she was like, oh, don't worry. While you're on the plane, we'll find you another job before you land. And little did I know, you know, I got on the plane, and as soon as I hopped off, they had some people that came over there and met me at the airport, and they took me to the school where I was working at. It was a boarding school, and it actually was a pretty cool experience as well. Yeah, it was a boarding school somewhere in the rural part of Shenzhen. And I stayed there in the dormitory and worked there for like, I don't know, maybe like 7 or 6 months or something like that, until, you know, all of us, we had a couple of British guys and some dudes from US, until we found out these agents were skimming more than half of our salary. That's the condition. And like I said, even through all that, I learned something, because it teaches you, like, you know, what people to avoid, what to look for. And that's what I said, even in the bad times, it can be a teaching experience, and you've got to have gratitude for that as well. And yeah, so 7 years went by in China. And for those of you who don't know, I can speak a little bit of Chinese, but it's shit. It really is, because the whole time I was here, you know, my job entails me to speak English all day, every day. And there were some schools that was like no Chinese allowed whatsoever. And that goes for the teachers and the students as well, who are Chinese. So, yeah, you know, 7 years went by. And to be honest, I didn't do anything in China. I wasted my time here. I wasted 7 years here the first time I was here by going out clubbing, chasing girls, and wasting all the hard-earned money that I was making, because I did bust my ass. You know, there were definitely jobs that I quit because the poor management, and also, you know, I can't blame everything on that as well. There were times where I was slacking as well, but for the most part, I work hard. You know, I don't sit around on my ass. I get into it. You know, in the Army, we had this phrase called, if you can't get out of it, get into it. And that's kind of how I approach things. So I'm still like very military, how does it, my mindset is still kind of like a military set mind state. I still wake up every day around the same time. Sorry, I'm just kind of walking in circles now. I wake up around the same time every day. I make up my bed. And you know, this is such a small, mundane thing, but like I have to do it. You know what I mean? And I want to approach other things like that as well. You know what I mean? Just develop this self-discipline. I've always like gave up on shit when it wasn't working out. Prime example, this whole YouTube thing. I don't know how many times I tried to start channels that dealt with multiple amount of content, gaming, vlogging, travel, food, and I just gave up over and over and over again. And here I am trying again. I'm trying to develop this self-discipline to push myself, you know, because at the end of the day, I do want some financial freedom. I don't want to be teaching for the rest of my life, though for the most part, I do enjoy what I'm doing. But yeah, so the first 7 years in China, I left, and it was due to, I guess, being in a negative space. I had a negative mindset. I was listening to all this propaganda from the West about, you know, China's doing this and doing that. And, you know, I just developed a negative mindset. And at that time, you know, it was like, I stayed through COVID and post-COVID. You know, there was definitely some, you know, how do I say, disdain for Americans, and I didn't really let this part get too much to me. You know what I mean? Because both US and China were just pointing fingers and playing the blame game. And yeah, anyway, so I left, went back home, and be honest, I still kind of hated it. You know, it's the same thing kind of happened, you know, with an exception of like my brother and one other friend. You know what I mean? Like, I love my brother. He looked out for me as well, gave me a place to stay. And I know he's the type of guy that he doesn't expect anything in return, you know, and it was a great feeling because I got to reconnect with him after being gone for so many years. And now he has a daughter, and, you know, I love her. And yeah, so stayed in the States, also bounced around again. I went from Detroit to Sumter, South Carolina, where I grew up, from Sumter, South Carolina to Worcester, Massachusetts, where I stayed with another Army buddy of mine, and he was going through his ordeal of, you know, shit on a plate, you know what I mean? And like I said, I love him, I respect him as well, you know, but I just didn't want to be I don't want to be in those type of environments. And I'm not talking about my brother or my other friend, but like environments where I feel like, you know, people kind of give up on their life, you know, and I try to like motivate him. Maybe I could have done a better job, but as they say, man, you know, you can lead a horse to a well, but you can't force it to drink. And I was like, man, let me get on out of here. So I was living in Massachusetts for about 6 months. I was working at this company called Gentex. You know, they manufacture like lenses for Ray-Ban and, you know, whatever, glasses, sunglasses, things like that. And I saved up some money, and just on a drop of a dime, I quit my job. And 2 days later, I bought a ticket to Vietnam, and I didn't know what I was doing at all once again. And this is now, I'm in my 30s. You know, I bought a ticket to Vietnam. I remember staying in District 1, I believe, kind of like in the touristy area around Japantown. And I was like, well, you know what? I do have some money that can buy me some time, but why don't I try to find a job? And it was, like I said, it's all about putting yourself out there and stepping out of your comfort zone, and you'll find something eventually. You know, as they say, knock, and eventually a door will open. And this is exactly how I approach life. Tomorrow, I don't care, I can, well, I wouldn't say I don't care, hold on. But tomorrow, for example, this is a hypothetical, I can buy a ticket to, I don't know, Japan or freaking wherever, you know, and I might not know what I'm doing for a few days, but I'll put myself out there, and I will ask questions and try to land a job. And this is how I landed a job in Vietnam. I was just going to the bank one day to withdraw some money from the ATM, and I seen this other white-looking dude out there. Happened to be an American. Started talking to him, and I was like, "Hey, man, like, what are you doing over here?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm teaching English." And you know, to my surprise, I wasn't surprised. And I was like, "Hey, man, can you put in a word for me at your company, and maybe to see if maybe I can land a job?" And he did. Gave me the contact number. I talked to the lady, and you know, kind of like sold myself in a sense. Like, hey, here I am. I've been doing this in China, and it's easy. Like, if you put yourself, okay, I wouldn't say it's easy. Like, you have to apply yourself. That's the main thing. You got to apply yourself, and you cannot have this stupid victim mentality that I talked about, you know, and I wholeheartedly believe this. You're only a victim when you start victimizing yourself. Okay, you gotta, well, I cannot motivate anybody, you know. You gotta go out there and do it yourself. You know, I don't want to hear any excuses. Oh, you know, I'm black or I'm purple or blue and I can't do this. What you do, you got some white privilege. And I don't want to get into this whole social, political type of thing. But I mean, if that's the case, then how are black people here teaching and working and living their life? how black people or blue people or yellow people or whatever color people are living in so many different countries. It's because they applied themselves, they put themselves out there, they sought opportunities and they found them. You know, it might take some time, but eventually doors will open up. You just got to go out there. And yeah, so I lived in Vietnam for 3 years. And to be fair, did I like it there? To an extent. I really liked my students. I was working in a primary school. You know, it was grades 1 through 5, and I was with the kids that I was teaching for 3 years, so they kind of grew on me. And this is probably one of the most, how do I say, this is the thing that I miss the most in Vietnam is the kids. And you know, there was a few people that also went out of their way to help me out, and the church family over there was pretty cool. You know, they always had your back and looked out, and we always have done things together. And that's the thing that's also very important, is a sense of community. You know, a lot of people, they isolate themselves, they become antisocial, and I don't think human beings are, you know, are made for that. We're meant to interact and connect with each other, but so many people are buying into this like political divide and everything that's going on, and if you don't agree with a certain person, they completely ostracize you and, you know, exclude you from their social circle. And to me, that's the stupidest thing. You know, one of the most beautiful things in life is being able to be friends with people who think differently, who act differently, who have different views and beliefs. You know what I mean? If you're always around the same people, it's, I don't know, it's kind of mundane. And yeah, so like I said, you know, I'm grateful, I'm thankful, and most of all, I would definitely say I'm blessed. No matter where I went, no matter what experiences I went through, good or bad, I'm just absolutely grateful for it. Anyway, that's pretty much the end of the video. You know, if you guys have any further questions, like I said, I have quite an extensive experience of living abroad. Once again, South Korea, Vietnam, China, and of course I traveled to other countries, Thailand and Cambodia. There's a few others. I can't name off the top of my head. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, you know, in the comments, and I'll try to respond to everybody. I mean, I just started this YouTube thing again, so, you know, my views and my likes and comments are kind of small, but honestly, I don't really care about that. I just want to make videos and see how far I can push that thing, and who knows, maybe one day gain some financial freedom from doing this YouTube thing. Anyway, you all have a good one. Peace.